In my first spirit guide video, I shared with you that I had lost a child. It was my daughter, Lee Kennoy. She was in an automobile accident in October of 1996. Lee was just 26 years old. Yes, to all you parents out there, I know what you're thinking, and you're right. Trust me, it's your worst nightmare. In fact, the intensity of losing anyone that you've shared your life with and loved dearly is your worst nightmare. The pain of loss is unbearable. Within weeks of Lee's passing, I saw her twice. The first time she was walking through the door to my bedroom. She kind of pointed her finger at me the way she used to do and kind of tilted her head. She did this a lot over the years, and it only lasted a second, and it just went away that quickly. She was gone. The next time she walked through the front door, but I only saw her shoes, her khaki shorts, and part of her white shirt before she vanished. Of course, this was great, and I was happy that I got to see that, but it wasn't enough for me. I wanted more. Over a year later, I was still grieving. 3 of my friends were planning a girl trip to Europe, and they wanted me to go. Well, I was hesitant because I was still having a hard time, so I kept going back and forth. Should I go? Oh, I shouldn't go. And my friend Jetta said, I'm buying your ticket, you're going. At the time, I owned a fitness center in Boulder, Colorado. One of my instructors, Judy, had gifted me a session with a psychic that she had been to, and she thought that she was extremely accurate. Judy did not tell her what I did for a living or anything else about my life. The first thing the psychic said to me was, I don't know what you do, but your angels love to watch you work. Of course, that made me really happy. I didn't tell her I was a fitness instructor, let alone an intuitive. I just wanted to keep that to myself so that it would not get in the way of my reading. I hadn't said anything about Lee because I wanted to see what she picked up on. I was there for one reason, a message from my daughter. As the reading progressed, the psychic told me that I was going on a trip. Well, that was true. And that someone from the other side was going to give me a white rose. I felt she had picked up on Lee. I was so pleased. The psychic continued and told me that someone from the other side was sending love and that they would always be there for me. I was always confident about the love that Lee and I shared. I know that love never dies, not even if a person dies. At this time, I was only focused on that rose. I wanted that rose. It became very important to me. My girlfriends and I had a very busy, fun-filled trip to England. It was nonstop. We laughed, stayed in wonderful historic hotels, and made a lifetime of memories. We spent most of our time in London, but we took day trips to Stonehenge and Oxford and did an overnight in Bath. It was great. If you viewed my spiritual beliefs video, you'll remember that I said you can bury emotions, but they remain alive, waiting to be fed. Well, on that trip, I just kept stuffing emotions down. I had a week of amazing distractions, but the whole time I was waiting and wondering about my white rose. To make matters worse, every cozy tavern that we went in for dinner had an arrangement of roses on their table. The first thing we saw in a hotel lobby were roses, but no single white rose that felt like it was meant for me. While walking in the gardens of Anne Hathaway's house, there was a white rose bush, and one of the roses was broken and laying down on the ground, but it didn't feel fresh and like the right sign. When I want a sign, I want it to be obvious. I don't think there should be any guessing or trying to make it fit. The plane ride home started out good. We had dinner and then settled in, and the lights were being turned down, and Jetta and I were sitting in the center section. The plane wasn't crowded at all, and we were the only ones in the entire row. She was sitting on the aisle. I was sitting right next to her. Well, those buried feelings started to come up in a very intense way. I couldn't relax, and I had a knot in my stomach. I had had a huge disappointment. No rose for Linda Kennoy. The tears started, and I said to my friend, I'm going to go to the other end of the row and be by myself. I just wanted to be alone with those intense feelings of devastation and disappointment that had come to be a very familiar part of my life. I sat there holding my heart, sobbing quietly. After about an hour, I got up from my seat, grabbed my makeup bag, and went into the restroom. I splashed water on my face and basically just tried to get it together. When I returned to my row, a white paper rose was lying on my seat. You know, the kind you make out of a paper napkin. There was my rose. I was so happy. Oh my God, I got my rose. I picked up the rose and I got the attention of my friends and said, oh my God, and I held up the rose, and they looked at me with blank expressions and shrugged their shoulders. They had no idea where it came from. I was just so happy. I knew that rose came from Lee. We arrived at the Dulles Airport in Washington, D.C., and discovered that there was an earlier flight to Denver. United told us only single seats were available and we would be spread out all over the plane. But we didn't care about that. We took the earlier flight. When we got to Denver, Jetta told me the guy she was sitting next to on that flight asked her if she was on the flight from London. She said yes. He said, well, there was a woman on that flight that was in so much pain that I made her a rose out of my United napkin, and when she got up to go to the restroom, I put it on her seat. I so believe my daughter orchestrated the creation of that rose. She co-created from the other side with a guy who knew how to make a white rose. This is crazy, but I pictured her like in the front of that plane going, come on, isn't there anybody out there who has a white rose or knows how to make a white rose? Get it to my mom now. And I got it. I received 2 more surprises after that. My son had just sold his company and he took everyone on a cruise. My husband, Jack, and I would go down to the lounge every evening before the family formal dinner, and we would sit by the window and have a glass of wine and just spend some quiet time together. On about the 3rd night, I was feeling really sad. I couldn't shake it. I told Jack, "Everyone is here but Lee." He of course said to me, "Linda, what do you tell people who have lost loved ones? You tell them they are right there with you always." At that very moment, a waiter walked up to me and handed me a white paper rose. Before my birthday, I was enjoying a massage from my, intuitive massage therapist and friend, Jolene. At the end of the session, she was really excited, and she said to me, "Lee was here today." She turned around, walked over to a vase of flowers, an assortment of flowers, all kinds of different flowers. She picked a flower out of the vase, turned around, handed it to me, and said, "This is from Lee. She told me to give this to you." It was a white rose. Now, was that a coincidence? I don't think so. And to answer your question, no, she did not know my story. Believe that your loved ones are okay, and they can communicate from the other side. They can love you from afar, and if you sit quiet and connect in with them, you will feel their love, and you will get signs. Just believe.